She smelled it before she saw it. Gasoline. Sharp, sweet, wrong. Then she turned, and there, through the haze of neon lights and slot machine jingles, 6 men in black masks, one pouring fuel into the carpet, another lighting a match. The last thing she remembers before the room burst into flames was the sound of a coin jackpot still playing long after the screaming started. This wasn't robbery, this wasn't personal, it was a message, a mass murder, in a place meant for escape. The Casino Royale wasn't glamorous, it wasn't meant to be. Set in the middle of Monterrey, Mexico, on San Geronimo Avenue, a strip lined with tire shops, pharmacies, small businesses. It looked more like a bank than a casino. No windows, a heavy glass door, fluorescent lighting that hummed slightly. Inside, the world was different. Air conditioning chilled the stale air. Slot machines blinked in endless cycles. The carpet was patterned with blue diamonds, the walls painted beige to avoid distraction. It was a workday, Thursday, August the 25th, 2011. Rosa Maria, 47, had just arrived after 2 p.m. to play the bingo machines before picking up her daughter from school. She brought her lucky rabbit's foot and a bottle of cola. Francisco, 63, was on his regular schedule. He liked the far left table where he could watch the football scores on the small screen while playing blackjack. And in the back office, 28-year-old Carlos Vega was reviewing schedules. Assistant floor manager, 1 year on the job. He had plans to propose to his girlfriend the next month. There were 60 people inside, some regulars, some staff, some first-timers. The afternoon was uneventful. That's the part that haunts Carlos the most. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing warned them. At 3:52 p.m, the sound cut. Not dramatically, just a brief blip. The overhead jazz loop skipped, then stopped. The hum of the air conditioner dropped in pitch. 1 or 2 players looked up. Most didn't notice. Carlos did. He got up, annoyed. A system glitch, probably. At the same time, near the front desk, the automatic door hissed open. No one in the booth noticed at first, until the men stepped inside. There were 6 of them, dressed in black, ski masks, work gloves. Not one of them said a word. They moved like a team, practiced, fast. 1 headed for the reception desk, 2 more towards the slot machine aisles. The tallest carried 2 large red jerry cans. Another unslung a duffel bag and pulled out something silver, a small gas sprayer rig. The last one walked with a lighter already in his hand. The front desk clerk, Natalia, stood to greet them, thinking they might be repairmen. She opened her mouth, and one of them grabbed her by the shirt, threw her behind the desk, and pointed to the floor. Carlos stepped out from the back office just in time to see one of the men tilt the jerry can. A wave of fuel arced over the tile, onto the carpet and across a line of slot machines. The smell hit hard. People began to cough. 1 man shouted. Chairs scraped the floor. Marta Reyes, seated near the back exit, turned. She saw a streak of liquid glistening across the floor like oil. She instinctively reached for her purse. A woman near the bar said, "What is that?" Another replied, "It's gas." And then the lighter fell. Flames shot across the carpet like they were alive. It happened so fast the first few people didn't even get up. They were just engulfed. The attackers walked out the door, calmly, without a word. One of them lit a Molotov and tossed it back through the entrance before stepping into a waiting SUV. They drove off. Inside, the walls screamed. People ran. Carlos tried to shout directions, pointing towards exits, but the smoke moved faster than breath. He saw a man trip, his shirt already burning. Another tried breaking open the vending machine to use the extinguisher inside. A woman behind the bar collapsed, her hand reaching for the fire hose valve that had rusted shut years ago. The smoke changed in the second minute. It went from grey to black, oily, choking. People couldn't see their own hands. They tripped over stools, over each other. One man made it to the side door, only to find it sealed with a security bolt. He pounded on it until his hands bled. Another woman was heard screaming inside the restroom, "We're trapped!" The restroom filled with smoke, so they lay down and waited. The fire reached the ceiling in under 3 minutes. The lights blew out, a slot machine sparked, spluttered, then stopped mid-jingle. Carlos, crawling on the floor, shouted blindly, "Go to the kitchen! There's a service door!" He couldn't see if anyone heard him. In the thick smoke, direction became meaningless. The front entrance was blocked by a wall of heat. The side exits, locked. Some tried smashing the reinforced windows with metal chairs. The glass didn't budge. Rosa Maria, the mother of 3, ran into the ladies' room clutching a hand towel over her mouth. 6 others followed. She tried to call her daughter. The call didn't go through. They jammed paper towels under the door, splashed water on their faces. The room got hotter. The mirrors fogged. Someone vomited from the fumes. Someone else passed out. Rosa, she clutched her phone like a lifeline, staring at the signal bar that flickered, then vanished. Outside, the smoke plumed black into the sky. Passers-by stopped, filmed. One called emergency services, screaming, "There are people inside!" On the roof, 3 employees from the kitchen had broken through a vent shaft and climbed onto the gravel rooftop. They tried waving for help, but no one looked up. A 4th cook tried to follow and collapsed in the ductwork. His lungs gave out. Back on the floor, Marta lay under a table. The floor was sticky with spilled soda, melted plastic and ash. She wrapped her scarf around her nose, coughed, prayed. Carlos made it to the cashier cage. His arms were burned. He pulled the gate shut behind him, metal against heat. He didn't see the teenager crawling beside him. Didn't know she was there until he felt her grab his ankle. She was trying to say something, but the smoke had stolen her voice. He dragged her under the counter, covered both of them with his jacket. She clung to his arm like a child. Then, nothing. Firefighters arrived at 4:06 p.m, but the flames were already inside the walls. The lobby had collapsed. Roof tiles fell inwards, glowing red. The air inside reached nearly 600 Celsius, enough to melt copper. They tried to break down side doors. Some wouldn't budge. Others revealed rooms so hot the paint vaporized on contact with fresh air. They found bodies in heaps, some near windows, faces tilted towards where they thought freedom might be. Others curled together in corners, staff clutching customers. By 4:30, the fire was out, but the horror was just beginning. The scene inside was described by first responders as a furnace of death. Bodies were everywhere, scattered between machines, behind furniture, along walls. Some died trying to open a locked door, their fingernails broken, skin peeled. One woman had wrapped her coat around a child, her arms fused in place by the heat. Another guest was found curled inside a cupboard in the break room. She had suffocated trying to hide. Most of the victims were burned beyond recognition, but the cause of death, not fire, smoke. They suffocated within minutes, choked on their own breath. Some died before they even got out of their chairs. 52 people gone in under 10 minutes. 35 women, 10 staff members, security guards, waitresses, a man who had just sat down to play blackjack for the first time. One of them had won 1,000 pesos on the slots just minutes earlier. A ticket was found beside her, untouched. Among the dead was Rosa Maria. Her phone was recovered, screen shattered, text unsent. There's a fire. I love you. Carlos survived. Barely. Doctors pulled melted polyester from his lungs. He couldn't speak for weeks. The teenager he tried to save didn't make it. Marta was rescued from under the table near the back, barely conscious, clothes melted to her skin. When she woke in the hospital, she asked one thing. Did the lights go out? She thought it had just been a power cut. Outside, families gathered in the street, dozens, hundreds, desperate. They waited behind yellow tape as black body bags were carried out, one by one. A man in a security uniform collapsed when he saw a pink sneaker sticking out of one bag. His wife had worn those every Thursday. The casino never reopened. In the days that followed, Mexican authorities labelled it as one of the worst civilian massacres in modern history. The fire wasn't random, it wasn't spontaneous, it was orchestrated. The attackers were members of the Zetas cartel, a brutal paramilitary group known for kidnappings, executions, and psychological warfare. They had demanded a payment, a quota, from the casino owner for operating on their turf. The owner refused, so they sent a message in gasoline. Investigators recovered the SUV used by the arsonists. One suspect confessed within days. It wasn't personal. We were told to scare them, not kill them, just a warning. But 52 people were dead. No warning, no chance, no escape. The public response was immediate. Monterrey shut down all casinos within a week. Federal forces flooded the city, but for the families, there were no arrests that could make the calls stop. No police tape could muffle the sound of screams burned into memory. Marta moved to another city, changed her name. Carlos never returned to work. He later testified in court, voice shaking, eyes glassy. He said he still dreams of flames coming from the ceiling tiles, that sometimes he hears jackpot music and feels heat crawling up his legs. Outside the site, now a rubble lot overgrown with weeds, someone painted a mural. A single roulette wheel, blackened, with a caption beneath translated in English. Never forget those who only come to play. We walk into casinos for fun, for luck, for a taste of control. But in Monterrey, one ordinary afternoon, luck ran out, doors didn't open, and fire doesn't care about your seat number. The Zetas didn't steal money, they stole time, moments, futures, voices. 52 lives erased to send a message that still echoes in walls, in memories, in dreams. So the next time you walk into a building, ask yourself, where would you run? Because sometimes, in the most ordinary places, hell is waiting behind the door. If this story unsettled you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. Because we're only getting started. 2 more disturbing true stories are coming, and the next one is about a bomb under your feet. It was shaped like a filing cabinet, metal, ornery, locked. Security rolled it through the lobby of Harvey's resort like it was nothing. Then came the phone call. Inside that box is a bomb. It cannot be moved. If you try, it will detonate. They tried, and at 1:07 a.m, the biggest non-nuclear bomb ever planted in America exploded beneath a casino. What if you were trapped above 1,000 pounds of explosives and no one knew how to stop it? Lake Tahoe, Nevada, 1980. Harvey's Resort Hotel and Casino was the crown jewel of State Line. Neon lights reflected on polished cars, Cocktail dresses shimmered under chandeliers. The clink of glasses, the shuffle of chips, the occasional winner's shout. It was Tuesday morning, August the 26th. Evelyn Roberts had just finished her 7 a.m. staff meeting. She worked guest services, knew every regular by name. That morning, she handled a guest complaint about a broken vending machine. Nothing unusual. Upstairs, in room 1601, 24-year-old bellhop Dave Carmichael clocked in. His shift was quiet until the front desk called down, asking him to help security move a box. At first, no one panicked. The box looked like office furniture, grey, metal, about waist high. Smooth surface, ball handles, no wires, no ticking. It was wheeled in on a dolly by a man in overalls and a cap. He looked official, moved with purpose, signed in at the loading dock. No red flags. Security took the box to the executive level, second floor, room 206. No guest was staying there. It was one of the VIP suites, closed for cleaning. They left it. Less than 30 minutes later, a phone call came through to the front desk. The voice was calm, even polite. "This is not a hoax," it said. "There is a bomb in room 206. It contains over 1,000 pounds of explosives. It has anti-tamper switches. If you move it, you will die." Then silence. The receptionist stood frozen, phone still in hand. Within an hour, Harvey's resort was being evacuated. Over 600 people, guests, staff, tourists, herded out to the sidewalk under the blinking glare of the casino signage. At 10 a.m, the FBI bomb squad opened the door to room 206. The air smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. In the centre of the room sat the box. Plain, unmoving, terrifying. The walls were lined with mirrors. A mini bar sat unused in the corner. A notepad on the desk had a single word scribbled: detonate. A handwritten note taped to the box read, "Do not move. Do not attempt to disarm. Follow instructions to the letter." The note claimed the bomb was wired with barometric triggers, mercury switches, vibration detectors. It wasn't bluffing. The FBI believed the man who built it, whoever it was, knew exactly what he was doing. Within hours, Harvey's became a fortress. The entire resort was shut down, roads blocked, a mile-wide exclusion zone enforced. No one in, no one out. The FBI brought in its best: explosive specialists, chemists, engineers. The US military even dispatched remote robotics team from Sandia National Laboratories. The bomb was unlike anything they have ever seen. Inside the metal case was a meticulously engineered, multi-layered explosive system. It had mercury tilt switches. If the box moved more than a few millimeters, the circuit would complete. It had pressure sensors, light sensors, vibration detectors. It had anti-disarm traps. Wires ran through false panels, redundant charges. And at the center of all of it, a series of timers, each ticking towards an unknown deadline. The message was clear: do not move, do not attempt to open, pay the ransom. Yes, there was a demand. The bomber wanted $3 million in unmarked bills, left at a precise drop-off point. No police, no tracking, no delay. If the demand was met, the instruction to safely disarm the bomb would be given. But the FBI didn't negotiate. Instead, they tried to outsmart him. Over 2 days, they built an exact replica of the device from X-rays and external inspections. They practiced disarming the duplicate dozens of times. They learned the structure, the tricks, the fake panels. They grew confident. On August the 27th at 1:07 a.m, the decision was made: disarm the real one. The technician in charge placed his tools down, one final breath, then turned a screw. The room disappeared. The explosion tore through the second floor of Harvey's resort. 1,000 pounds of dynamite. The casino's steel reinforced frame absorbed most of the force, but floors above and below were demolished. Chandeliers in the lobby exploded like glass grenades. Furniture turned to splinters. Doors were blown across hallways. The bomb left a 5-foot deep crater in the building. Damage was estimated at $18 million, equivalent to nearly $60 million today. But somehow, no one died, because they had evacuated the building, but they still failed. The man behind the bomb had a name: John Burgess, a 54-year-old Hungarian immigrant, former pilot, self-made businessman, lawn care company owner in Fresno, California. He had no prior criminal record, but he had lost heavily, over $1 million, gambling at Harvey's resort over the years. He blamed the casinos for his ruin. He called it rigged, a system that preyed on people like him. So he built a bomb. Not just any bomb, a military-grade device engineered over months in his garage. He tested it in remote fields, documented results, repeated detonations until he was satisfied. Then he and 2 accomplices drove to Harvey's. Disguised as repairmen, they wheeled the device inside. They left it, knowing exactly what it would do. After the detonation, the FBI pieced together fragments from across 2 states. A tip from one of Burgess' own sons eventually cracked the case. Agents raided his home. Inside, they found blueprints, journals, a practice bomb. Burgess confessed. He showed no remorse. He said only one thing during the trial: "I wanted to be heard." He was sentenced to life in prison. Died in custody in 1996. His bomb, it remains to this day one of the most complex ever built on American soil by a civilian. A weapon of intelligence, of ego, of revenge. Harvey's resort was rebuilt. The destroyed floor was reconstructed, steel reinforced again, carpets replaced, the lights returned, the slots blinked on, tourists shuffled back in. But beneath the surface, things never felt the same. Staff who worked that day often asked to be reassigned. Several quit. Evelyn Roberts, who had taken the first call, never returned. She said she couldn't stand the sound of elevator dings anymore. Dave Carmichael, the bellhop who helped roll the box in, gave one interview. He said he still sees it in his dreams, just a box, sitting, waiting. The FBI later published a 170-page technical report on the bomb. They called it a masterwork of criminal engineering. It was only luck and time that prevented mass death. If they tried to move it even slightly, if they hadn't evacuated as early as they did, hundreds could have died. A plaque was briefly installed near the service elevator. It read, "To the men and women who face fear with courage, August 1980. It was quietly removed in 1984. The casino didn't want guests remembering what happened under their feet, but those who were there never forgot. It wasn't the rage that shook Harvey's resort. It was patience, planning, cold mechanical intent. A man lost everything and decided the world should feel his pain. The bomb didn't kill, but it wounded the air, made every thud, every low hum of machinery feel like a countdown. It reminds us, sometimes terror doesn't kick the door in screaming. Sometimes it just waits, quiet, shaped like a filing cabinet. If this story made your skin crawl, there's one more you need to hear. A child, a casino restroom, and the moment every parent fears most. So subscribe, hit that bell, and stay with us, because the most disturbing horror is still to come. She was 9 years old, too young to be alone, too young to end up locked in a bathroom stall. with a monster. No one heard her scream. No one noticed when she stopped returning to the arcade. Her father kept playing, and when security finally checked, it was already too late. This is a story of a little girl lost in a place meant for adults, and the horror no one saw coming until it was done. May the 25th, 1997, Memorial Day weekend. The Prim Valley Casino just past the Nevada border was packed. Families stopping en route to Vegas, teens in arcades, parents at the tables, bright lights, clattering chips, echoes of excitement under an artificial sky. 9-year-old Sherrice Iverson had come with her father, Leroy. They were travelling from California, stopped for the night. Her older brother was with them. Sherrice was energetic, bold. Her smile could disarm strangers. But that night, she was tired, restless, too young to be inside a casino, but no one enforced it. Leroy told her to go play in the arcade. He sat down at a slot machine. It was almost midnight, and somewhere, behind blinking screens and security cameras, his daughter walked out of sight. The arcade at Prim Valley was large, noisy, chaotic. Bright screens, token machines churning, teenagers yelling over fighting games. Sherrice drifted from game to game, small, unaccompanied, invisible among the chaos. Security footage later showed her moving aimlessly, bouncing between groups, wandering near vending machines. A child playing without direction or protection. Then she began to follow someone, a teenager. His name was Jeremy Skomeyer, 18 years old, blonde, from Long Beach, high GPA, clean cut. He was there with his friend, David Cash. They noticed Sherrice near the change machine. Jeremy teased her. She teased back. He offered her a soda. She followed. Cameras captured them near the arcade entrance, then walking down a hall, then through the door of the woman's restroom. No one noticed. The staff were busy, security thin, and to everyone else, it looked harmless. A teenager, a kid, a prank. But inside that restroom, there was no prank. Jeremy followed her into a stall. Sherrice tried to leave. He held her back. He began taunting her, pulling her hair, threatening her. The tone changed. It got darker. He grew agitated. She resisted. She screamed. David Cash, Jeremy's friend, walked in. He saw them in the stall. He stood there, watched, then turned and walked out. Jeremy stayed. Jeremy didn't stop. He pinned her, pressed her into the corner of the stall. She begged, whimpered, fought, but he was bigger, stronger, cruel. What happened next is sealed in court transcripts, but here's what you needed to know. Sherrice Iverson was assaulted, then strangled, then left half-dressed, curled on a toilet seat like a doll discarded. Jeremy washed his hands, checked his hair in the mirror, then walked back to the arcade, smiling. No one knew what had just happened, not yet. David Cash asked no questions. Later he would tell reporters, "I wasn't going to throw away my life for a stranger." He never called police, never warned staff. He let Sherrice die, alone. Leroy Iverson didn't realise his daughter was missing until nearly an hour later. He asked around, got drugs. No one had seen her. At 3:30 AM, a security guard checked the restroom. What he saw stopped him cold. He thought it was a prank at first. A mannequin slumped over. Then he saw the bruises, the stillness. He radioed it in. Within minutes, the arcade was cleared. Crime scene tape went up. The music stopped. But the monster was already gone. Jeremy and David had left the casino by then, crossed back into California. But security footage, fingerprints, witness statements, they were already waiting. It didn't take long. Within 48 hours, Jeremy Skomeyer's face was everywhere. On news broadcasts, wanted bulletins, surveillance stills. Police traced the soda he brought with Sherrice to the Pacific machine. His fingerprints matched. Surveillance caught the precise moment he walked out of the arcade hallway. The cashier remembered the blonde kid who paid for drinks with crumpled bills and a smirk. An anonymous tip came from California. By the end of the week, Jeremy was in custody. He confessed, in detail, coldly, deliberately, unapologetically. He said she wouldn't stop crying, that he panicked, that he just wanted her to be quiet. He told the detective she reminded him of his sister. That detail made one of the officers leave the room. In court, his defense tried to plead mental illness, tried to shift blame to alcohol, to childhood trauma, but none of it worked. The footage was damning, his confession airtight, the public furious. Jeremy Strohmeyer was sentenced to 4 life sentences without parole. He is still behind bars. But David Cash, he was never charged. He claimed he didn't see enough to know for sure. He said it wasn't his business. He kept walking. Sherrice Iverson's funeral drew hundreds. She was buried in a white dress, her favourite stuffed animal tucked beside her in the coffin. Her family never returned to Prim. The casino issued a brief apology, then reopened the arcade. For the world, it was a moment of horror. For her family, it was a hole in the universe. But something changed. Her name became a law. The Sherrice Iverson bill was passed in California in 2000. It made it illegal for any adult to witness a child being assaulted and not report it. Before that, David Cash walked free, and he bragged about it. He gave interviews, said things like, "I'm not going to lose sleep over someone else's tragedy." He enrolled in college, joined a fraternity, smiled for yearbook photos while the Iversons struggled to breathe. But people remembered. Protesters followed him, held signs outside his dorm, shouted his name in lecture halls. Enabler, coward, accessory. He became a ghost walking through crowds who saw his skin and not his shadow. Sherrice was only 9. She never got to grow up, never got to leave that bathroom, because adults failed her, because someone walked away. Sometimes horror isn't loud, it isn't paranormal, it isn't some shadowy figure in the woods. Sometimes horror is silence, a girl begging for help, and footsteps walking the other way. Sherrice Iverson wasn't lost, she was left in a place where children should never be alone, left by strangers, left by someone who saw and did nothing. So ask yourself, what would you have done? Because the scariest part of this story isn't the killer, it's the one who kept walking. If this story shook you, hit that like button, subscribe and ring that bell. And remember Sherrice, not as a case, not as a cautionary tale, but as a little girl who deserved to grow up.